It is the 22nd of the 3rd 2-4. Max Verstappen has finally come out and pronounced his undying love for his second family, that is the Bulls that are red. The soon-to-be 4-time champion has said that he understands the speculation around him and Mercedes. It's always nice to hear that because Toto and I have had our moments, but this is normal for two teams battling for the championship. But above all, continues the Dutchman, the respect has always been there. But has it though? Really? And speaking to the debacle surrounding Red Bull TP Christian Horner, Max Verstappen says, from my end, doesn't change anything. He doesn't know what he'll do after his deal ends in 2-8, whether he'll stay in F1, continue or sign a new deal with Red Bull. But that, he says, is why he signed the deal in the first place, because he's happy with the team and his intention is to stay there in the end. For me, Verstappen says, it's like my second family, therefore it's really important that we keep the key people around. Mention no names Helmut Marko, who was on the brink of being dispatched by Red Bull GmbH, but for the intervention of soon-to-be 4-time champion Max Verstappen. And this, lest we forget, is where all the speculation about Max Verstappen's future has started. Lest we forget the secret addition of an addendum to Max Verstappen's contract that allowed him to leave if indeed Helmut Marko, consultant to Red Bull GmbH, leaves as well. Talk about techie. And speculation surrounding Aramco potentially purchasing Aston Martin and having Max Verstappen and Adrian Newey at the top of their hit list. And this has only served to turbocharge the speculation. But that's insanity, surely. Why would Max leave the most dominant team and car that F1's ever seen? Well, why did Schumacher leave Benetton in 9-6? Oh, and by the way, the same could be said of Hamilton in 13 and 25. For it's a weird and wacky place is this thing we call F1. Speaking of which, the aero goat himself, one Adrian Newey, is reported to have already been having conversations with Ferrari. Yeah, plural. This matters. And this tallies with everything we've ever heard from Adrian. He's always spoken openly, glowingly even, as Scuderia Ferrari. Newey said that Ferrari is a magical brand. And in all honesty, anybody would be attracted to be part of the brand if indeed the right opportunity presented itself. And if Adrian were to make the move, he'd be ticking 2 of his 3 F1 bucket list items, being to work for Ferrari and to work with 7-time champ Sir Lewis Carl Davidson Hamilton. And I for one am here for it. Can you just imagine Lewis Hamilton in an Adrian Newey designed car? Inject that into my veins forthwith. Speaking of which, Lewis Hamilton has spoken out against the W15, but not necessarily in the way that you'd expect. He said of the W15 that it's definitely not like an evil sister of the previous year's car. I do think we have an amazing car. It has a lot of potential in it. We just haven't maximised that at the moment through the setup et al. Lewis, on the back of the last 2 races, how can we possibly engage that meaningfully in good faith? Truth is we can't. And Lewis continues mixing in with that hopium a very welcome dose of truth serum, saying that we're obviously not happy with the performance in the first 2 races, but I think there's a lot more potential in there that we just haven't extracted yet. Potential, eh? There's our beloved P word again. And the verisimilitude of this Mercedes positivity is juxtaposed with the onboard footage from one Lando Norris's McLaren looking back at the Mercedes. Over the course of 1 turn, no less, Lando is gapping his compatriot Sir Lewis Hamilton to the tune of 7/10. You see, now that, my right honourable friends, is the very antithesis of aerodynamic efficiency. But as Mercedes fans, of course, we never lose faith. And in other news, Haas F1's Nico Hülkenberg has reached for the biggest bunch of sour grapes that he can find. Hulk pouring all the water that he can find on the flame of Ollie Behrman optimism, asserting that the Brit's F1 debut will be long forgotten if he doesn't smash it this year in F2. When asked about Behrman's chances of replacing his teammate K-Mag, Hulk said, I think it's way too early for that sort of talk. I think he's got a big job on his hands in F2 first, and if he doesn't do well there, his F1 debut will be forgotten in 2 days. You know how this business works. Behrman continues the journey and after all was in the second best car, and you see how that vehicle performs. How valuable that is and what type of difference that makes. You know, as much as I like Nico Hulkenberg, this smacks of jealousy. Because lest we forget, once upon a time, Nico Hulkenberg was Ollie Behrman. Indeed, it was Hulk who was supposed to be the next one up, the next Schumacher, the next Hamilton, the next Verstappen even. But hitherto, his has been a career of unfulfilled potential. What could have been? There have been flashes of brilliance a la the Brazilian pole many moons ago. But for a driver of Hulk's not insubstantial talents, those occasions have been too exceptional, too infrequent. It's possible then that Hulk is speaking out of fear that maybe he's the one that will be replaced by Ollie Behrman and not his teammate K-Mag. Oh, the humanity. And in the latest in Christian Hornerville, David Croft, Sky Sports F1's own, has spoken to Fox Australia, saying that there's a lot going on in the background that seems to be draining energy levels. And it's a long season ahead, 24 races no less. And whilst it hasn't caught up to the bulls that are red just yet, eventually, says Crofty, that might take its toll. Talk your truth, Crofty. The Sky Sports F1 commentator continues that Horner's already spoken about the impact on himself and his family, and that the Red Bull TP's future is still in the balance, lest we forget pending appeal, the outcome of which his future is dependent upon. And speaking of futures, Mohammed Ben Sulayam, head of the FIA, has had his called into question. Not less than 24 hours ago, it was Susie Wolff who, on the back of baseless accusations, has made an official criminal complaint to French court. Accordingly, Susie released a statement calling into question the FIA's transparency and honesty or lack thereof. And now Susie's long-standing friend and 7-time champion Sir Lewis Hamilton has chimed in, only serving to underline Susie and millions of F1 fans' concerns. In a world where people are often silent, says Lewis, for her to be standing up sends a great message. I love that Susie's taking it out of the F1 world and is fighting it from outside. It's still a male-dominated sport, continues Lewis, and the message that we're sending is if you make a complaint, you get fired. Oof. Say it with chest, why don't you? And critically, when asked whether he still had confidence in Mohammed Ben Sulayam's leadership of the FIA, Lewis responded thus, that he never has had confidence. Suffice to say then, with MBS exonerated and a ton of key personnel leaving the regulatory body, which are only superseded in terms of importance by Susie Wolff's criminal complaint and Lewis's statement of intent, then all is fine and dandy aboard the good ship FIA. To be sure, a market leading regulatory body. The prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.